Senators, this is your water. If you don't believe that you should be notified within 24 hours if this is contaminated, then come up here right now and drink it. It's an absurd scenario, but the fact that not every single senator is standing on the affirmation today is also an absurd scenario. Today's debate has boiled down to two key issues. Let's get right into them. The first is the efficacy of enforcement. Now, Senator Seabrooks and Senator Stone talk about the EPA not reporting this because it took 60 days for them to do so in Flint, Michigan. And that's because the parts per billion in Flint, Michigan were 20. That's a Tier 3 threat according to EPA regulations. But today's legislation mandates a 24-hour notification period, automatically increasing the threat level to the Tier 1 threat. Well, that increases enforcement. But then Senator Portson and the previous Senator Sanchez talk about how this is the fault of local utilities or private companies. But today's legislation mandates that the EPA audit them, and it increases EPA enforcement of them. But finally, Senator Kim brings up the most impactful argument of the negation, that the EPA itself is unaccountable and won't report or can't report on this lead poisoning. But that's why today's legislation solves, because today's legislation ensures personal financial accountability amongst individual employees of the EPA. And that's because it mandates that individual employees have to forward this information to consumers when they find out about it. And under the Federal Tort Claims Act of 1946, the individuals can sue federal employees instead of the entire agency if the misconduct or negligence happened under the jurisdiction of an employee. In Michigan Flint, what happened was a lawsuit, class action against the entire EPA. You're not going to win a lawsuit against a federal agency. You will against individuals, and that's going to ensure that every employee of the EPA does follow through with this and enforces it, meaning that we're going to report on these lead levels, take action. For too long, this Congress has taken reactionary action. Let's take preventionary action. Let's do our job. Let's affirm. But next, let's take a look at the impact. Now, we know that if we do this, we're going to have enforcement, and we're going to reduce lead levels through filtering it out and replacing the pipes. That's going to save the lives of thousands of children. That's going to reduce crime, as Senator Stewart talked about, because lead alters the neurotransmitters in your brain and promotes crime in these urban areas. But perhaps most importantly, we're also going to replace the infrastructure. Now, Mr. Sweminson mentioned a Washington Post article that explained that these pipes are extraordinarily old, and they have exorbitant amounts of water leakage. By replacing these pipes, we're going to stop that water leakage that's a few drops of water per minute, but ends up being millions of gallons a year. My constituents at home in California just cringed because California does not have 1 million gallons of water. By affirming today's piece of legislation, we're saving countless lives, we're conserving water, and there's no other vote other than the affirmation. When we call previous question on this legislation, I expect everyone to vote in the affirmation. Thank you.
Time's reached 3 minutes and 6 seconds. All questions, please rise. Mr. Portson, Mr. Stone, Mr. Seabrooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So even if the EPA audits local municipalities, how do you solve for the fact that the EPA's board systematically avoids auditing those communities already and systematically avoids measuring those
Here's the thing, the board isn't involved anymore because now we're holding personal employees accountable. Under the Federal Tort Claims Act of 1946, if an employee doesn't tell that municipality that their water is contaminated, he will be sued, and that will ensure that he will tell that city what's happening.
Stone.
So an EPA employee should be sued if a water company lies to that employee?
Absolutely not, because what's happening is the EPA is auditing those results of the contamination tests, and when he finds that it's contaminated, he has to tell the municipality, or else he will be rightly sued.
Mr. Seabrooks.
Thank you. Can you please explain how you're saving lives by replacing these lead pipes? If I explain to you my speech, due to inadequate resources and technology, this has resulted in a 140% increase in lead contamination.
Here's the thing. When we pass today's legislation, we open up a national dialogue. We increase investment in these types of issues, and we can always pass legislation to give categorical grants or block grants to states and municipalities to replace these pipes if they can't do it themselves or fund it themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Hawk. You may be seated.
I thank the chair.
No problem. All speakers in the negation, please rise.